Hello and welcome to KPFT's debate series for the 2021 local board delegate elections. We will hear from various listener candidates. My name is Tim Langford and I am with the League of Women Voters of Houston and your moderator for this program. The topics to be discussed cover key topics facing KPFT and the Pacifica Foundation as a whole, and questions submitted directly by KPFT members. Please note that all viewpoints presented are those of the participants and do not reflect the position of the Pacifica Foundation or KPFT. The program starts with opening statements, followed by a debate covering topics selected from a predefined topic list, and ending with questions from listener members. The order of the candidates and topics has been selected by using a random sequence generator from random.org. This hour, we are joined by Todd Walker, Ron Stubbers, Jane Scheidler, Teresa Allen, and Henry Faust. Before beginning the debate, each candidate has 1 minute to make an opening statement, and candidates will hear a bell when that 1 minute is up. So that having been said, I welcome all of you to the KPFT listener board, local board delegate debate. And let's start off with Todd Walker. Todd, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Oh, there we go. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Walker. I'm a small business owner and attorney in South Houston. My legal work has consisted mainly of corporate law and finance. I think that I can use my business and legal experience to help the station attain the objectives set out in its mission statement. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ron. Thank you, Todd. And Ron Stubbers, you now have 1 minute to make your opening statement.
Great, thanks. So KPFT is a jewel that you're not going to find anywhere else. It represents Houston through its unique educational mission, including local mission, music, and history in the community. It has community programming like Open Journal, Arab Voices, and Prison Show, Pan-African Journal, just as examples. Those are reasons why I support KPFT. I hope you'll support me because I've built and led organizations, and I've brought those teams of people together to get things done. I'll roll up my sleeves on the LSB, I'll ask questions and work with the team to find solutions. My MBA and experience on corporate boards are tools that I'll use to apply to the difficult place that KPFT and Pacifica are in at the moment, where strong and positive leadership are needed to save this jewel for the next generation of listeners. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Jane Scheidler, you're up next. You have 1 minute.
I took 1 second of it to unmute myself.
It's okay.
I am a former volunteer programmer at KPFT. I initiated the first environmental issues talk show, one of the first in the country in Houston, and it was unique in that it was balanced without conflict. We had a lot of local people in the community from the Audubon Society and the Bayou Bend Association, and then also would have visitors from the ship channel industries. I've had extensive experience on nonprofit boards, including Houston Audubon Society, the Humane Society of the United States, Help Endangered Animals Ridley Turtles. I retired from the state of Texas, where I built unique coalitions of community organizations and local governments, as well as state and federal agencies to work on problems.
All right. Jane, thank you so much. Teresa Allen, you now have 1 minute to make your opening statement.
Because I feel that an informed citizenry is essential to democracy, I've supported KPFT Radio for over 30 years. Serving on and off the board since 2002. I've served on local committees such as the Outreach and Development Committees, but I'm proudest of my service to the Pacifica Affiliates and Archives program. Founder Lou Hill's words, "As long as I can communicate, I can create, and as long as I can create, I am free," are an inspiration to me. I seek out problem solvers and team players and those with professional expertise as well as a broad range of talents to accomplish those goals. I can't do it all, and this is a team. Pacifica has 5 stations and an associate station and over 200 affiliate stations. I've visited a lot of those stations, so I know that even if you're just in one room, you can produce the most amazing radio. So I'm looking for people to work with that have a can-do attitude, and I try to have that myself. That's where I'm coming from.
All right, Teresa, thank you very much. Henry Faust, you have your 1 minute starting now.
Yes, sir. My name is Henry Faust, and I'm running for the Kpft local board. I've been a professor for the last 14 years, and I have lots of experience writing proposals for grants, managing grants, and also managing budgets. I'm currently working for the state as a practicing engineer, where I also manage projects, and this includes managing budgets, schedules, and lots of networking. So some of the things I would bring to the board would be the idea that I'm going to work with a very experienced grant writer, and that we could work on a proposals for grants. Some other ideas are possibly the idea to promote broadcasts from various locations, and also get local businesses more involved with Kpft. There are a couple of different ways of doing that. Also, I started thinking about the idea that how can we get younger people involved as listener members of Kpft. And another area could be the possibility of beefing up the social media presence of Kpft, which is something, you know, it's this huge other universe, right? And we all seem to be older. It may not be our forte.
Need to have you wrap up, Henry, but
Yes,
we'll come back to you for some
Yes, sir.
more. All right, well, we want to now move on to the debate portion of today's program. The format consists of assigning one topic to one candidate as determined by the initial random sequence, allowing the candidate 2 minutes to develop their answer. All other candidates, following the order defined by the initial random sequence, get 30 seconds each to comment or ask a follow-up question. The structure iterates through candidates until all have had the opportunity, had an opportunity to address a topic in depth. And Todd, we're going to start with you. This topic is to you. What are the strengths and weaknesses of Kpft's programming, for one, and should LSB members be involved in determining programming at the station? And you have 2 minutes.
There we go. Well, I think, as Mr. Faust said earlier, I think that Kpft has a number of excellent programs. I think that it needs to pay some attention to how those are timed so that they're broadcast in the higher listening sequences. In terms of listener involvement, I think their involvement is via the board elections here, and that is indirect involvement, not direct involvement. Their election of board members who in turn are charged with overseeing the general manager and program manager. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that.
All right, very good. Ron Stubbers, you have 30 seconds for your comments on this.
Unmuting there. Yeah, the LSB's spot in that is not to set actual programming, but to put the GM in place and help out with the program director. The LSB can, however, help in setting up what are criteria for programs so that programs can be judged consistently and well across the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go on to Jane. You are next. You have 30 seconds.
I reserve my time. Thank you.
Very good. Teresa, you have 30 seconds to make your statement. You're muted. Teresa, you're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. In the past, we've had a program council, and the program council had board members on it. I think the most important thing is that when it comes to evaluating programs, that's done with the program director and the general manager and not in public. It's not the place of any board member to just run around criticizing other programmers. So the place of the board in that is to hire a good general manager who can manage people. And
I'm going to have to cut you off, Teresa. I'm sorry, you've exceeded your 30 seconds.
Thank you.
All right, we will go on to Henry. You have 30 seconds as well.
Yes, sir. I want to go back to what I think Ron said, is the fact I did look at the Pacifica bylaws, and it sounds like the board itself can't really do a lot in terms of programming. But I do wonder if when these programs are broadcasting, is there some way to measure the number of people that are actually listening to the program? And so maybe, as popularity would be a way to figure out what programs to keep and what programs not to keep. But I've been a listener. There's a lot of things I'd have to learn about that.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on to the next topic that we have, and this is a question to Ron. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the existing models of fundraising at Kpft and Pacifica? Please propose any alternate fundraising ideas or models that you may have, and think about the strategy and timeline for implementation of your alternatives. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, so there are a number of alternative things that could be done. One would be to look at lapsed members. I know that I've been a sustaining member, and I've had a credit card that hit an expiration date, and I figured out because I looked at a statement and said, hey, what happened to KPFT on here? And then re-upped, but it wasn't because I got a call from KPFT, so I know that they were missing out. So, we should be able to go back to those people and say, hey, would you like to give us a different credit card? That's just money sitting on the table. Bequests, someone leaving real property or funds when they pass away. Corporation for Public Broadcasting, I know that there was some discussion about that we're not getting those funds right now, so working to get those reactivated if that's possible to do. I think those are some underwriting, perhaps. Those are all possibilities that we could go after. We'd have to look at what all the things that we're doing right now, and to see what are the things that we haven't looked at before. That's certainly one of the things that a big job of the local station board is fundraising and looking at ways to bring funds in. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you very much for that. And we'll have Jane, you have 30 seconds now for your response.
Thank you. Ron made some really good points. I think we need to continue to do everything we're doing and do more of it. In addition, speaking as a former programmer and as a potential board member, it's always been a responsibility of board members in particular to, in any nonprofit, to participate actively in fundraising and go to all of their friends and just ask for money. And it's amazing. You just ask for money and people will give it to you. And I'd like to see the programmers more actively involved in fundraising and taking more personal responsibility for their listeners and encouraging their listeners to become members.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll move on now to Teresa Allen. Teresa, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I think we had Mr. Stubbers had some great ideas, and so did Jane. As I've served on the development committee, and we work really, really hard. I think that we have worked on lapsed donors and we continue to, and we could be a lot better. We can work on legacy or bequests. We do need to get our money back from CPB, and we need to work on grants. Plus pledge drive. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. And we will now move on to Henry. Henry, no, I'm sorry.
Hey, Tim, can you still hear? Oh, you put yourself on mute. Okay. So as I said in my little introduction, one area I could work on is proposals for grants. And as I said, there's a grant writer. She's very successful. She's brought in millions of dollars. And maybe we could get a big grant that would help out. And that would be over a pretty long timeline. Also, maybe the idea of cars that aren't the best cars and do a junker drive. You know, I know they've done things with that in the past. And I do wonder, there's some database that KPFT has with members in it. I wonder how together that database is and how often it's updated. So that would be a really great place to start, because it seems like there's a big challenge on who's a member and who's not.
I'm gonna have to cut you off right there. I know we got a little bit of a late start.
Yes,
And
sir.
Todd, you have your 30 seconds now for your rebuttal.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I don't have a lot to add to what the prior speakers have said. It's certainly ought to concentrate on reinstating the Corporation for Public Broadcasting status. In-kind contributions would be great. Bequests are great. Corporate underwriting with conditions, independence, obviously. You know, I mean, all of these things, and scouring the membership base to try to get lapsed members back in the game. I think those are all
Okay.
great ideas. I think
I have to stop you right there. We'll have a chance
Okay.
for closing statements
Sure.
in a little longer, in a little bit. But let's go on to our next question. And Jane, this topic is for you. Your question is this: what do you think is the most serious problem needing the most immediate attention at KPFT and Pacifica? And what do you propose as solutions for this problem? And you have 2 minutes.
Wow. I think there are two serious problems. First, we're facing as a local station, the financial stability has to be absolutely at the top of the list. Everything else will come from that. Once we get a more financially stable base, we can hire a good program director that'll in turn address some of the programming issues and set up. We need a short-term plan because of COVID, and we also need a long-term development plan for when hopefully life goes back to normal. Is that, how much time do I have?
You have about a minute, 15 seconds left.
Okay, so in the short term, I think we do need to rely on social media, but we also need to be aware that a large percentage of our listener base is not on social media. We need to be able to reach into those areas of the community that are potential listener members, potential listeners first, and then recruiting listeners to become members and make it so attractive to be a member of KPFT that it's going to be a club that everybody wants to be in. It is going to be the cool place in Houston that everybody wants to be a part of. And long term, I think, you know, when we can go outdoors again, we need to do tabling. We need to go to the parades. We need to go to all the community festivals, set up a table, meet people face to face so that they know that KPFT is there for them and is available to them as a resource for education, entertainment, and community engagement.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Teresa, you have 30 seconds now.
Thank you, Jane. I want you to lead us in strategic planning. I think that one of our biggest problems right now is that we have, not just because of the pandemic, we have lost some of our connection with our community. If you look at our mission, we need to be financially, fiscally responsible. If we're not, then we're in desperate straits. But I think the most important thing is to relate to our community. If we serve our community, they'll want to give, they'll want to be engaged, and our programming will be cutting edge.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I had 40
Still have
seconds,
about-
right?
No, yeah, 2 minutes.
Two.
It's 30 seconds, I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. 30 seconds that time. I'm sorry. I got a little confused on my rundown. That happens. Henry, you have 30 seconds now.
So it seems like to me, there are maybe dire financial issues right now because KPFT is selling its biggest asset. And so I think up front, there probably needs to be a big fundraiser just to bring in a lot of money right now to make things solvent. And then after that's done, a more viable business plan for the local KPFT. Those are the big things I see.
Very good. Thank you so much. And finally, we'll go to, not finally, Todd, you're next. You have 30 seconds.
Well, I think as everyone said, the financial problems are front and foremost. You've got to address those. And longer term, I really think, as Jane said, a more robust social media initiative underpinned by maybe an emphasis on programs that are going to appeal to the younger crowd, health, environment, and so forth, considering the situation we're in here nationally and globally.
All right. End you right there, and we'll go on to Ron. Ron, you have the final word on this topic.
Okay, great. Yeah. Just I'll note that for anybody listening, we do have some financial difficulties. So if anybody has a building or some space out there who's listening, we could use a little space to put our folks in. Just as I'm not on the board, but we could use that. And I do think too that that outreach into the community is part of the station board's objective, and that's going to be an important thing for us to do. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to now question number 4. Teresa, this is a topic to you. What is your understanding of the role that unpaid staff play at KPFT, and how do you think they should also be represented?
I've been working with the unpaid staff and trying to make connections with them for many years. They are an amazing group of people who have, some of them quite competitive and quite resourceful, trying to give to the community, not only in their programming, but in their fundraising. What position do I think they play in governance? Right now, the unpaid staff has a position in governance. Of the 24 members of this local station board, they have 6 of those positions. On the national board, they have representation also. I guess when it comes to unpaid staff, I would say are one of the biggest concerns would be that they not fight with each other for space on the airwaves. If you've seen the movie KPFA on the air, which is the movie about how the first Pacifica station started, you know that that sometimes it can be that way because according to the mission, you have disenfranchised people on the air. So sometimes they compete with each other. I think that we can work together, and the diversity can be a blessing. It can be exciting and it can be useful, and we can problem solve together. So I value the unpaid volunteers, and I want to work with them.
All right, Teresa, thank you so much. Henry, we'll have 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say on this. I would just say that, with volunteers, do small things to show them and acknowledge all the work that they're doing for free. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be like a gift card to Starbucks or maybe a mug. And I'm not sure what's done right now. Like I said, I've mainly been a listener. So that's all I have to say.
All right, well, thank you very much. And Todd, you have 30 seconds now.
The unpaid staff is obviously a great asset to the station. I think Henry's right. You ought to concentrate on Starbucks and koozies, this kind of thing, in terms of showing your appreciation. It sounds as though they're well represented on the local and national level.
All right, thank you so much. And then we'll move on now to Ron. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, the unpaid staff are the people that you hear on the radio, and they're the engineers that are behind that. So they're critically important to the station. So they really drive what the programming that goes out over the air. How does that fit into governance? Yeah, that's kind of a different question. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. And Jane, you now have 30 seconds.
Speaking as someone who's been on both sides, I was very fortunate when I was a volunteer programmer that I always felt nurtured and appreciated. And as much as it is a painful buzzword, perhaps we could work more with the professional paid staff to create a more nurturing environment and less competition and more appreciation on both sides, so that the unpaid staff has a greater appreciation of the paid staff and vice versa, which I think is really important. Inclusion.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go on to question number 5. And Henry, this is a topic for you. In your opinion, what is the most important role or responsibility that the local station board has? And how should roles or responsibilities be modified to improve the functioning of the local station board?
I think the biggest responsibility, other than sticking to the bylaws, is the fact that we raise money. And as I said before, I'll be an old saw about this. As I said before, there are fundraising activities like, writing proposals for grants. We can look at the database and get the membership straight and seek funding through members. And there's some other activities that we could pursue. But I think it's fundraising.
All right. Thank you so much. Todd, you have 30 seconds now.
Yes, that's certainly very important. I think that the recommending a pool from which the general manager and the programming manager are hired is extremely important, as is producing budgets and financials. Both of those, I believe, are responsibilities of the local board under the bylaws.
All right, very good. And Ron, your next 30 seconds to you.
I would agree with what I had just heard. The LSB is there to support and give direction to the station's management, provide a pool of people to select from if those people don't exist at the moment, but also to look out into the community and see what part of the community is not being served, and town halls are mentioned in the bylaws, things like that too. So
all right,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Jane, you have 30 seconds now.
Again, everybody has good ideas. I think one of the main functions of the LSB is to advise the staff and volunteers on global direction, which includes, of course, fundraising as well as outreach, but to take an active day-to-day personal responsibility and ownership of everything that the station does and stands for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll finish off with Teresa. You have the last 30 seconds.
Boy, I want to serve with you people. wonderful information, wonderful input. We only have, if our general manager has started already, then today, then we only have 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. When we talk about the role of the responsibility of the LSB, I agree that number 1 should be to raise money and do positive outreach to the community.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll come back to if you want to add some more to your closing statement, we'll save it for that.
No problem.
All right, we'll now move on to some select questions from a list submitted by listener members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and we'll take as many questions as time allows. So this first question is, again, you each have 1 minute to answer. The first question is, do you have any ideas about how KPFT can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences? Todd, we'll start with you. You have 1 minute.
Sure. Well, I think that, again, more aggressive outreach on social media, and I think more of an emphasis on topics that are very current, specifically health and environmental matters. I think those are things that are very much on young people's mind these days, and I think that would be a way to broaden the listener base.
Very good. And we'll move on. Ron, you have 1 minute to answer this question yourself.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the kinds of programming that that we're putting out and see if we've got programming that's targeted at that demographic. So also health, what sorts of things are coming out of the legislature that are going to affect them, that sort of thing. News and that are going to affect them. So yeah, that kind of thing would be the kind of programming I would think that would be helpful. Yeah, and you know, we have a website, but how much social media outreach do we do? As Teresa noted, we have a couple of people. It's tough with a couple of people to do a lot of that, so you have to get your volunteers in line to make those sorts of things happen.
All right, thank you so much. We will go down next to Jane. Jane, the same question to you. Do you need me to repeat it, or do you?
Would you please repeat the question?
Certainly. Do you have any ideas about how KPFT can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences?
Thank you. The first thing I think we need to look is from professional outreach and development. We don't need an ad. We don't need a billboard. We need a continuing, ongoing campaign of outreach into the community. And it's got to be both in social media, and I really respect that we're currently constrained by the pandemic. But as soon as we can get outdoors again, we need to be out where people are. We need to be at the farmers market. We need to be at the flea markets and being a presence in the community that's real and real people. And I think all of the programmers need to be involved in that. All of the board members need to be involved in that on an active weekly basis, reaching out into the community and trying new shows and see who listens. You know, people don't always know what they want to hear until they hear it.
All right.
Once they hear it on the air, then they'll go, oh yeah, that's great. And they'll start writing checks.
Okay, I'll have to cut you off there. And we will go next to Teresa. You have 1 minute for this question as well.
First, we need to find out what they want to hear, the young people. And that comes from ascertainment. We have to figure out how to reach them and find out what they want to hear. Then from that comes relevant programming for them. And then we need to use our social media and podcasting and ways that they want to get that information. Then we need to, at the same time, recruit those young programmers and train them. And then we need to cross promote with all of our programmers, encouraging people to listen to other programmers and work as a team, work as a unit, supporting each other. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And finish up with Henry. You have 30 seconds. Sorry, 1 minute to answer this question.
You know, a lot of things that I want to touch on have already been touched on, so I'm going to repeat a lot of what's said. Yeah, I think the social media presence should be beefed up. You know, well, obviously I have to have people that are savvy on social media. There could be interesting collaborations with local businesses. There's a couple of ideas there. I would like to see more in terms of podcasts and how podcasts are marketed. And also the idea that maybe a broadcast could be at different venues. So, you know, maybe at the farmer's market, there could be a broadcast for KPFT that day, if it's possible, right? Because there may be some technical challenges there. And that's basically what I have.
All right, very good. We'll move on to the next question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think Tim's locking up.
Can't hear you.
Hey,
Yeah,
Tim, you locked up.
Oh, Tim, we got you back. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, oh, I'm so sorry. I hate that. So the second question, and we'll start with Ron with 1 minute. How can we resolve to work together for the betterment of KPFT?
How can we resolve to work together? Well, I mean, that's what the board does, right? Is works together as a group to make the station go forward. So I think that's the job actually that we're looking at, and part of the rest of it is listening. You know, you've got a GM coming in. You need to listen to what the GM is thinking. You've got a new person, and so you need to hear what the questions are, what the concerns are, what's going on there. You've got people who are doing programming. You've got your unpaid staff. What are their current concerns? Hear what they're saying, hear what their concerns are. I found in the past that a lot of times you can alleviate a lot of difficulties just by listening to what people are saying and hearing what they've got.
All right, that's your 1 minute. And Jane, we will come to you next for 1 minute. How can we resolve to work together for the betterment of KPFT?
Thank you. And I'm going to echo a little bit of what Ron said, and that it starts with listening. And we need to listen without judgment to our beautifully diverse community. And to the extent that the board reflects that community, we can start by really hearing what the concerns are, not to agree or disagree, but to use that as a basis for the structure of where the station wants to go. And then down the road for course correction, when we see if we've drifted away from where we should be going, we pull in, we go through the process again, we listen again. You say, okay, we thought this is what you wanted, didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. What can we do next? And be constantly dynamic and open to that feedback. Sorry about all the buzzwords. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you so much. Teresa Allen, you have 30 seconds to answer the question. Can we resolve to work together for the betterment of KPFT?
I think first we can try to be positive and hardworking and assume good intentions of not only our staff. I always try to start by thinking the best of everyone and assuming good intentions. And we can listen. That's already been mentioned by several people. Listen. Then we can be resourceful and hardworking with what resources we have, what money we have, what staff we have, what volunteers we have. And as Jane said, we can do course correction as we go. So thanks, Jane, for that.
Oh, Tim, you're muted.
Tim, you're muted right now.
Trying to do things with my keyboard. Sorry about that. Henry, you're next. You have 1 minute.
So I would start by saying we should try and trust each other. There's total lack of trust in our society. I think it's terrible, actually. Be more transparent in our actions. Also listen. It's huge. Be open to new ideas, and if and when those ideas fail, just move on and try other ideas. So that's all I have.
All right, very good. And I apologize. I think I gave some incorrect instructions on the last question. So on this question to the last person. Todd, you have 1 minute.
Sure, thank you, Tim. I think the fact that we're here speaks to all of our intentions to work for the betterment of the station. As to how to do that, I think if we approach matters from a standpoint of mutual respect, do a lot of listening, as has been said by numerous people, and be ready to experiment, be open-minded. I think we're a little older crowd here, but there are a lot of things that we don't know about. We've got to ask a lot of questions and try different things, I think. That's all I have. You're muted, Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
Todd, you have the last word on this for 30 seconds. I'm sorry, for 1 minute.
I just spoke, Tim. Shall I say it again?
I'm sorry,
Who does?
you have 1 minute. The question is, how can we resolve to work together for the betterment of KPFT?
Okay. Who is the question directed?
Who's that to?
That's to you, Todd. You have 1 minute for this.
So Todd just spoke.
He just
Oh,
spoke.
Todd just spoke.
Yeah.
I am not very good at this. Well, we must have just.
We'll
move on. We'll move on to the next question. Then I think I've come to my list, and I to the bottom of my list on that. So we'll go with question number 3 now. What will you do to shorten fund drives and to make existing fund drives more interesting? And you'll each have 1 minute, and we'll start with Jane.
The way to shorten fund drives is for people to give more money. I think we need, I have been privileged to be a listener member of several other stations. And what I found that works is, first and foremost, being very specific in your requests and not just whining and feeling sorry for yourself, not trying to make people feel guilty. And I see that a lot. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. And making direct appeals, and being sure that all of the programmers are personally involved and take personal responsibility for the fundraising of the whole station, not just their show, but the whole station as a community and as a representation of the community at large. Again, this has been said over and over this afternoon, that efficient fundraising is the cornerstone of everything that we're going to do moving forward.
Got it. All right. Next, we'll go to Teresa. You have 1 minute on this question.
KUNM in Albuquerque has good pledge drives, and they encourage their people with a drawing or a raffle if they pledge early. I think if people were encouraged to pledge early rather than the last minute, especially since we're in the pandemic and we don't have much live programming, if they gave early, that would really help. And I agree with Jane that programmers should take personal responsibility to raise money, and they should be given goals. And we should also help our programmers. We need a program director or someone that will help our programmers, train them or work with them to raise money if we're going to spend so much time on pledge drives. So we have a better pledge drive. We need to bring our lapsed members back in and encourage people to be sustainers. So we're not always just going from pledge drive to pledge drive, sounding rather desperate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Henry, the 1 minute is for you now.
So I'd like to go away from the pledge drives, and seek other sources of funding. As I said before, grants, maybe the Junker Drive, cars that could be pledged. Approach wealthy individuals or businesses for funding. Also, maybe an auction every year. My kids, when they were in elementary school, there was an auction night and everybody loved to go to it. It was like this big party. And maybe KFPT, if they don't have that already, maybe they could have something like that. People would actually want to go to it and give money.
All right, thank you so much. Todd, you have 1 minute. What would you do to shorten fund drives and to make existing fund drives more interesting?
Well, I think Jane hit it on the head. The way to shorten fund drives is for people to give more money. Leaving that aside, I think developing other sources of revenue so that maybe the station's less dependent on fund drives, being having maybe 2 fund drives a year, and that's it, rather than having them kind of drag on, which seems to be happening. And also maybe be more specific about what we need the money for, what we're going to spend it for, and what our goals are. That's all I have.
All right. Well, thank you each of you so much for answering those questions. And now we're going to go to the closing statements for our program. And you will each have 1 minute for a closing statement. And Todd, we will begin back with you.
Okay, well, I think that if anything is obvious from our discussion today is that the station is a great asset to the community. It has a lot to give. It's worth working for and preserving. I think we're all here to do that. So I say let's do what we can, and I think that we'll have something that our future generations will be very proud of. Thank you.
All right, very good. Ron, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Ron Stubbers. So Kpft is kind of a wild and wonderful place. You know, it's all kinds of programming, all kinds of music. It's an interesting governance model. It's lots of people wanting to make it help it go well, and that's something that I really appreciate, and something that I really support, and I've supported for a long time. So I think that anything that we can do as a group and individually to help move that forward is a great thing, and I'm willing to help in that effort. I'm hoping that that you'll support me in doing that. In my past, I've helped to build up companies, and I've been on boards and been in business, so I know some of the things.
We are running up on time.
Some of the things that are needed to take a look at what the organization's doing, and I think I can help move the organization forward. Thank you.
And Jane, you have 1 minute now to answer, to make your closing statement.
I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier, and I think we need to look at, I noticed this, I'm going to try to say this really quickly. When I started the nomination process, I know hundreds of people in Houston, and people who share my values, and people who used to listen to my show, and not enough of them were members. And there are 6 million people in the Houston metro area, and we need to have more of those people as listener members, and we need to find them and go to our individual networks, go to our friends and people who share our values and say, hey, why aren't you a member of Kpft? When have you listened lately? You know, and do that on a personal basis and urge your friends to do it as well. That goes to financial stability. It goes to community engagement. It goes to development. All of the ideas we've had. I mean, just look at us. We can be a great board all by ourselves. So that's my closing statement. Let's get out there.
Thank you so much. Teresa Allen, 1 minute for your closing statement.
Pacifica mission includes, if you read it, fiscal responsibility for the station, educating, training people in community, training these volunteers to do their own media, entertaining people, encouraging dialogue, and certainly empowering people in community. I see my purpose on the LSB is to help people find common ground, to connect, to encourage dialogue, to work as a member of the team, and to collaborate. And I look forward to that.
Very good. Thank you so much. And Henry, you have the last word, your last closing statement for 1 minute.
Yes, sir. You know, I'm impressed with the other candidates, and that makes me feel really good about the whole process. And I'm also interested in how a community radio station functions and continues to be viable to the community. And more importantly, I just want to be more involved with this radio station, KPFT, and hopefully get on the local board. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of an interesting discussion of this program. And thank you for listening to KPFT's debate series for the 2021 local board delegate elections. My name is Tim Langford. I'm with the League of Women Voters. I've been the moderator of this program, and we were joined by Todd Walker, Ron Stubbers, Jane Scheidler, Teresa Allen, and Henry Foust. You can visit elections.pacifica.org for all questions and to file a ballot request form. And make sure to cast your ballot before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 10:59 p.m. here in Houston on October 15th, 2021. Thank you all so much for watching and listening at home.